Hello, and welcome to another episode of the More Minute. Today is the database crash course, affectionately known as the database fruit salad. This is in honor of a colleague who kind of coined that term when we were looking at a customer's data estate, right? And when you think about this, the amount of databases, the sprawl, the variations of databases really happen because each of these different databases serve a different purpose and they have a specific use case. Often, as enterprises grow or as certain departments grow, that's where you can really see the different types of databases grow along with them. And when we take a step back, the primary function of any database, and it's really a database management system, is to provide a way to store, retrieve, update, and manage data. And the main actions within a database management system are really four, and they are this acronym called CRUD, which is creating, reading, updating, and deleting. And you can even maybe boil this down into an oversimplification of reading and writing. So when I read to a database and I ask the question, if I'm a commerce store, how were my coat sales over the last 5 years in the state of Minnesota between the months of January and March, and pull me all this information. So that's really a request or a query that we're asking of the data, and it's going to go back and read all of that information. And the writing an example of that could be Brittany just bought 5 coats in Minnesota in late March, and that's what we want to update in her user profile so we can send her marketing emails and give her discounts next March when there's a big snowstorm, etc. And another important part of databases is that they're either proprietary or open source, or sometimes both. But essentially, this is proprietary, meaning that it's offered from a technology vendor like Google, Amazon, Oracle, Teradata, IBM, as opposed to open source, meaning that this is a free technology that anyone can go in and actively start using without paying for. So now I want to take you through a very simplified example of some of the maybe most common fruits in a database fruit salad. So to start our database fruit salad off, I want to break this down into different categories. The first being relational. This is also called structured, and structured databases often use a structured query language, also called SQL, and non-relational, not very creative names here, but essentially this doesn't use or doesn't only use a structured query language or SQL, and the data isn't set up in what's called a non-structured format. So kicking off with the structured first, I wanted to talk about DB2 and Netezza. These are legendary database management systems. DB2 specifically is great for both transactional and analytical operations, and it's really known for its scale and performance and large scale transactions and really being able to optimize how those are run, as well as scalability and security. And Netezza is interesting because it's actually a data warehouse appliance, meaning that this is a piece of physical hardware that's been pre-configured in software that's all about optimizing running complex queries in large data sets. And what's unique is that it uses this massive parallel processing to handle large amounts of data and run very complex quick queries very quickly. Then there's also MySQL, which is from Oracle. It's great for smaller web-based solutions or smaller IoT, or even OLAP, which stands for Online Analytical Processing, or Transactional Processing, OLTP, as well as MariaDB, which can be used for similar web-based type of applications that are smaller, and it also has extended location data storage, higher performance, and improved scalability. There's also the Oracle Relational Database Management System, which is obviously from Oracle, and it's known for its reliability, scalability, extensive features in working with very large-scale data. And there's Postgres, which is really a star at complicated queries, a large choice of custom interfaces that are really predefined functions. It's a great match for analytics as well as warehousing, and it's also ACID compliant, which is really a form of ensuring that your data is protected and it has atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. There's Microsoft's SQL database, which is great for many clients who are already leveraging Microsoft, as well as having cloud accessibility and advanced data retrieval tools. And I also wanted to talk quickly about Aster, which is a database from a company called Teradata. And it's really great for big data analytics, again, that OLAP or OLAP workloads and data warehousing. So now when we think about the non-structured side of the house, we'll start off with Mongo, which is a document-oriented open source, meaning it's not owned by any one vendor and it's free and open to the public. It was originally intended for non-structured data, but it also supports structured as well. And it's great for real-time data integration, data scalability. There's also Redis, which is a great solution for data from IoT devices and being able to process these records and keep them in a steady data storage. Cassandra, which is another, again, open source, free and open to the public, which is a wide column database, which is great for it has this data distribution. So it's really great for large volumes of data that are being processed, the perfect choice for data centers, as well as this real-time analytics because it allows for linear scaling and the data increases in real time. Elasticsearch, which is another document-oriented database. It's distributed in nature. It has flexible data models, so it's great for e-commerce stores. Back to my example from earlier. So think of something with a huge database, lots and lots of products, and they tend to use search engines. Then we also have Firebase, which is great for real time, specifically things like messaging apps, social media apps, gaming software, where you need the real time data to be synchronized across different browsers and different devices. And finally, there's Amazon's DynamoDB, which is a key value database. It's great for high scalability, low latency, consistent performance. Again, great for e-commerce, gaming, and IoT solutions. So when you think about all of these different databases and the variety, the different use cases, the different specializations that they have, again, this is just a very high level. I'm sure there are lots more, but even in this short amount of time, we've covered quite a few different databases. It can be a real challenge to think about how you as an organization can manage all of this. How do you drive security across this? How do you drive high availability, disaster recovery? How do you think about access control amongst all these different data sets? And even when you are doing analytics, if you wanted to feed this into a traditional business intelligence solution, into a Gen AI solution, how do you pull all this data that may be in different states, that may have different levels of governance, into something cohesive that you can use? And that is the exact topic of my next video, so stay tuned for that next video because I'm really going to walk you through how you can leverage and really use all of this data as an enterprise in a way that's cohesive and that has a simple entry point. So I will see you in the next video where we'll cover that.